Hell, if he says shoot the moon,
Okay.
if there are not bridges, make them bridges.
There would be need for some utility improvements. Stormwater improvements are in the cost estimate right now because we used the current Mountain View project cost estimates, which included storm utilities, to get our price per foot to apply to this corridor. What's not in there yet, it would be water and sewer system improvements, and we'd have to look at that in terms of would we need to or should we extend utilities on out, particularly that east-west section where they don't exist today. With this road improvement. And I suspect the answer is going to be yes. So we have to factor that into our detailed cost estimates. That's something that potentially is paid for through this grant, but could also be paid for through our enterprise funds. And we have enough time to accumulate money towards those that we have some options there. If the grant gets to be too cumbersome, too big, that's potentially an outside funding source, local match, if you would, that would help our standing in the grant application process. I should mention, because of the way they've classified these grants, there's rural and urban. We fall into the rural category, which means that there's no local match required. If we were urban, it's a 20%. Because we're rural, they will fund up to 100% of the project. That being said, any local match you can provide, whether it's other federal funds that you're not like we have on the Mountain View job, local funds, local enterprise funds, will probably help the application in terms of the rating. Okay? So, yes, we can apply for 100%, but we may want to consider doing something with some local match anyway that we think we can afford to help our overall score.
Does your match have to be actual dollars, or could it be work in kind, whether it be engineering on our part or labor on site?
Yeah, I believe if it's like most of them, I'm not as familiar with the Tiger 8 myself, Lisa would probably have to answer that, but I believe you can count those types of in-kind services and local in-house design work. On a job like this, to this extent, this is not something we can do with our in-house staff. We just don't have the time to commit to something this extensive. So this would definitely be consultant work. There could be components of it that perhaps we would do in-house, but all the other jobs have to happen too. So most likely this one would be consultant-driven in terms of design, and the estimates reflect that.
And you've got, if I may, you've got $200,000 of cash for Mountain View in the bank, effectively.
That's correct. There is $200,000. There are two line items for Mountain View in the current budget. One of them is a collecting spot, if you will, for the next phase, which was the State Highway 8 to White Avenue, right? And that's been estimated as an $800,000 to $1 million project. We've got $200,000 or so in that today. There's also money in the other line item, which is the local match for the ITD grant, okay, the STP Urban grant that's administered through LTAC. I'm throwing out a lot of terms, but the current grant that we have for Mountain View along the park. So there's money also, local dollars sitting there until that has to be handed to the state as part of that project. So, yeah, there are some local dollars in hand. So utility improvements we have to sort out yet in terms of water sewer. There would be some retaining walls in certain places along the cemetery, a couple other spots as we go along. And most likely we would need to acquire right-of-way, particularly on the east-west corridor section. That's generally a 50-foot wide right-of-way through there out in the county and even portions of what's in the city. So we would anticipate some right-of-way acquisition that's also in the budget that you have seen. All right, so that's the general scope as is proposed right now. Again, it's very aggressive. It's very large. It's very shoot for the moon, to use the mayor's term. We will work on refining in our estimates and figuring out if that truly is where we end up going. But at the moment, that's the course of action we're proposing and looking for support from the council.
When's the deadline? I'm sorry.
Come to that in just a moment. So in the application process, as part of the cost-benefit assessment, when you do federal projects like this, you have to be able to demonstrate that there's a benefit equal to or greater than the cost of the project. Otherwise, it's seen as a waste of federal dollars. So that's why in this case we are proposing to hire FCS consultants to assist us in doing the cost-benefit assessment, because it's a fairly complex process. Here are some of the things that they consider. Quality of life in general, so do you does the project result in reduced vehicle miles traveled, okay, VMTs? Does it increase accessibility for anybody, but also for those underserved populations? Does it potentially increase property value? Economic competitiveness. Is there a travel time savings for business or for delivery? Even farm to market, which this is also a farm to market road when you think about that. Operating costs for the city to operate the facility. Tyler was just giving you a presentation on what does it cost to keep a road system going. Well, the better condition is, the lower the operating cost. So there's a benefit there. General safety. How many accidents would, if this project had been in place, would have been prevented? Whether it's a rear end accident because there was not a left turn pocket, or it's a pedestrian accident because there wasn't a sidewalk, or a bicycle accident because there wasn't a bike lane, things of that nature. So there's that aspect that would be considered. General state of good repair, maintenance and repair savings, how much patching do you have to do, how much road grading do you do on the sides, that type of thing. And then some environmental sustainability components. Are there benefits to the environment from the project? Reductions in idling time, reductions in traveling, miles traveled, carbon emissions, that type of thing. There are other components as well, but these are generally the ones that you will see. To go through these processes and work your way through this, you need somebody that's done these before, frankly, to do it in a short timeline, which is why the request for some outside help. So as the packet indicates, the approximate cost of this, as, again, back of the envelope, first shot, I did it in the afternoon, estimate is about $19 million. Now that includes construction, that includes the design services, right-of-way acquisition, construction administration and inspection services. There's one more and I'm missing there. But then also markups, because it's a planning level estimate, so there's a 20%, hey, let's put a contingency in here. And then in order to avoid that future funding shortfall, we put in a 25% cost escalation because it may be 5 years before we actually build if this goes forward. And so I want to make sure we're not, if we're using today's dollars to estimate, that we're actually looking at what we think the cost is going to be in 4 or 5 years. So that's in that initial estimate. We have to rework all of that to get into the right formats for the application, and we'll see if there's anything we've missed, frankly. Estimated schedule, application is late April, I think it's April 29th, if I remember correctly, of this year. So we've got roughly, 5 weeks or so to get this wrapped up. If we are fortunate to be selected, and we feel we have a good competitive chance, there's no guarantees, but it's a good project. The funds would have to be obligated for construction by June of 2019. It's actually October, but the state needs to have them by June so they can get them, do their thing. So for us, June of 2019, at that point we have to have the environmental work done and probably some preliminary concept work done. Then you do final design and you start construction. You have to complete the last pay request by October of 2024.
I think that'd be easy to do. I don't see a big deal with that. I tell you, if you need a picture of the mayor on a bulldozer or something out there, hell, they'll get it.
There we go,
out
right?
there.
So it seems like a lot of time in its way when you think, 2024 to be done. That's out there ways. But these are federal dollars. This requires federal processes. It takes 6 months to get a design contract approved. You have to go through the federal environmental review process. The EIS.
Well, as I say, and for me, I like to get on things next week. I don't like.
Absolutely.
I understand the process. I mean, holy smokes,
Yeah. So yes, for the near term, we don't have a lot of time. We've got to get done in April, and then it just has to keep rolling after that if we're going to be successful. So tonight, what we're asking of the council is that you approve staff pursuing an application for the Tiger 8 program for this corridor project in its final form, whatever it ends up being. I don't anticipate it would be anything more extensive than this. There's some potential we might need to scale it back, and we'll try to keep you informed if that is the case. So approval of the staff proceeding with that grant application, And then we have a proposal here to hire the FCS group, which happens to be the firm that did our last two rate studies, by the way, to assist us in doing the cost-benefit analysis and assist us in actually writing the application. They've done these before, they're familiar with it, and they can turn it around within a couple of weeks, which will be leave us in good stead in our timeline.
Catherine?
I'm just curious, when would you find out if you were awarded?
You know, that's something I don't yet know the answer to.
Well, I
They-
think it'll clearly be within this year, because all those people are going to be gone after January.
Right, I
So
believe
I'm-
you're correct, and it's a question of, is it a spring or a summer or fall notification, and I'm not sure we have an answer to that
They
yet.
were, I think we will see this within 3 or 4 months. That's what I think, because the urgency of what that guy was talking about. Now, I realize things go along at a snail's pace at the federal government, but this guy, these people were very adamant. I mean, at the end of the year, they're gone in their roles with,
I mean, just,
however works back east, so.
and to give you a little bit of an idea here, we're not even sure yet which agency we'd be working with to fund this. The last time it was through the Federal Transit Administration, FDA, and it was a transit-related project. It made sense. That's not the case here, so we don't yet even know which agency is going to be administering it at the more local level, who's our contact. So there's some questions there yet to be answered. Elise is attending a webinar tomorrow that's going to address some of those types of things, and she has a series of questions like that she's going to be asking. So hopefully we'll have some more answers here shortly.
Walter, did you?
A statement and a couple of questions, a question and a couple of statements. When did y'all start working on this?
Well, I think Elisa started it in conversations with Gary, beginning of last week. I got
I
pulled
came in and talked to her on Monday morning, Walter, and she got right on it.
and I got pulled in
This
about
is a
Wednesday,
priority.
I think, and so here we are.
Wow, I'm impressed. Pretty quick stuff.
Thank you.
A question, you don't have environmental cost in your cost estimate. It's rhetorical, but I wonder if it should not be included.
Probably in the engineering, the 25%, I think that's in that.
Well, that
estimate.
was my next question, was the 25% for design engineering. The federal agencies that I work on funding infrastructure projects frown at anything that's greater than 25% for both design and construction engineering inspection. So that's why I kind of looked at this.
We may need to break that out.
Well, and then, yes, and then the 20% contingency is pushing the high side. If you can find out, maybe not during the webinar tomorrow and asking questions, but along the process, what are they expecting? Because sometimes these agencies have, this is the box we want these to fit in.
Right.
That's
Well,
all.
and is often the case in these types of applications, they don't have a line item for contingency. So you actually have to build it into your unit costs. And so as we get into our detailed estimates, I mean, that's part of what you have to do. And so,
Well, that's
yeah.
how my budgets are written, no contingency, so.
Right, and these were really just placeholders to kind of get us in the ballpark. And then as we work out the detail in this next week, 10 days, we'll have a better idea of how all these numbers will look.
Well, okay.
One question for you, Les. The funds that are available for this program are already in the federal budget. This money is in a pool someplace, and it's going to be awarded. And it's just a question of who gets what.
That's
right?
my understanding. They made the call.
There's not a
This is how much we
situation
have.
where you can spend 15 grand on putting in your application and everybody does this and nobody gets any money.
Somebody will get the money.
Always.
Well, this is going to be gone. It's going somewhere.
Okay.
And I figure,
Hey, we got a good a shot as anybody if we do a good enough job and get the lead out and fix it and go forward with it and do our great presentation. Art,
I want to make a motion.
Okay.
Get us off
Martha.
self-congratulations and approve the application for a Tiger 2016 grant to complete the Mountain View Road from State Highway 8 east to Mountain View Park and to retain FCS Consulting to prepare the benefit cost analysis and assist with the grant application preparation for a fee not to exceed $15,000.
A second.
okay, we got a motion by Art, a second by Catherine to approve the application for Tiger Grant 2016 grant application to complete Mountain View Park from State Highway 8 east to Moscow
of Mountain View Park and to retain FCS Consulting to prepare for the benefit cost analysis and assist with grant application preparation for a fee not to exceed $15,000. I will start the roll with John.
Aye.
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 An enthusiastic aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Now that you have accepted your assignment, I'll you know what you need to have done before the 29th of April.
Off we go.
Good luck,
Okay, thank
Mr.
you.